Here is a facsimile edition of Betty and Me number 16. Facsimile edition is basically just a replica, a reprint, including the original ads. So it's pretty much an exact reprint of the original issue. Now, Betty and Me number 16 originally came out in 1968 and had a 12-cent cover price. So this reprint, the cover price is right down there, $3.99. Well, it's kind of hard to see. ArchieComics.com. So yeah, I actually ordered this through the ArchieComics.com website. They come in this little plastic thing when you subscribe. So this facsimile one shot was part of my classic Archie Mega Sub, I think is what it's called. It's a 6-issue sub. And you never really know what you're going to get, but this had said on the website that this issue would be part of that subscription. So the issue came out in stores on August 7th, and today is August 8th. So it only arrived in my mailbox like a day after it came out in stores, which was great. The reason they're reprinting this is because of the double entendre of the front cover. Now, I think the double entendre is sort of, it's sort of retroactively a double entendre. It wasn't intended that way, because you can see, referring to what Archie says there, some people imply a other meaning, but you can see that when he's saying beat off, he means beat up. You can see some black eyes on some of these characters that he had to beat off to rescue Betty. The cool thing about this, well, there's a couple cool things. One thing is that I'm a big fan of the facsimile editions that Marvel and DC have been reprinting or been publishing since 2019. They cost as much as a regular comic, $3.99, $4.99, depending on how many pages it has. And Archie this is the first time that Archie's been doing it. So they're sort of getting in on the facsimile thing. So this is the first one. And when you look in the fine print at the bottom of the first page, it says Archie Facsimile Edition number 1, Betty and Me number 16, published monthly. So I've noticed that this issue already has an index on the Grand Comics database at comics.org. And they list it under a series name called Archie Facsimile Edition. That's the series name. And so the subtitle of this particular issue of Archie Facsimile Edition is Betty and Me number 16. Now they are going to have an issue of Veronica from, I think, the 90s or something like that is the next one. And then after that, they're having a Jughead comic from like the early 60s. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope they keep especially doing the older issues, the ones that are harder to get from like the 60s and earlier. Anyways, I thought it was really good. I read the whole issue just about an hour ago. And there's no credits on here, so they didn't add anything other than that fine print. In fact, there's even a subscription page somewhere in here. All the original ads are in here. There's even a subscription page. And, sometimes they'll put little fine print saying offer no longer valid or something like that. But there's not even that. Even the cover still has the original 12-cent price on it, which even usually Marvel and DC, they change the cover price. They don't want people buying it on accident for 12 cents. So, and plus the barcode is on the back cover, which DC has been doing recently, whereas Marvel's still putting barcodes on the front cover. Because I think they realize people want this to look exactly like the original cover. Because the whole reason that they're printing this is for the cover. And people will probably slab it and put it in their collections and stuff like that. So, anyways, so I give Archie a lot of credit, as this issue is more impressive than I thought it was, simply on a, not only for, the quality of the reading, but simply on a technical level, in the sense of how they reprinted it. They were totally faithful, it appears to me. I don't have the original comic, but it appears to me that they were totally faithful to the original issue. Now you can tell some things are printed a little differently like this has a nice clean, a nice clean page. Um, they probably had original artwork, or photo stats of the artwork, or some sort of digital files or something like that to print from, so they could do a nice, clean looking version. Whereas this ad over here, it looks like they just made a scan of the printed comic, because it has the dots that you would see on the coloring back then. So there's a combination of some pages that are just scans of the printed comic, and then some that look like they were taken from the original. Um, are going to look basically as good as the original comic did, or even better. I did think sometimes the pages seemed a little thin, like there's sort of a, I don't know if it's just my copy because it came in the mail, but there's sort of a thinness to it that I wish the paper, it's nice shiny paper, but it has a sort of thin quality to it, like they're using a thinner stock of paper. They should have just bumped it up a little bit. But the other thing is there's no credits in these, because Archie Comics didn't start putting art credits for the most part in their comics until the early 1980s. So looking at it, I was trying to figure out, like, well, who drew it? Because at first glance you might think, oh, that's Dan DeCarlo art, because it has that sort of look. And it might be. I mean, there's bits of it that look like Dan DeCarlo, but I was also kind of wondering, well, maybe it could be Stan Goldberg, because Stan Goldberg had a somewhat similar style to Dan DeCarlo. This one is definitely not Dan DeCarlo. I'm thinking it could be like someone like Joe Edwards or someone like that. You can kind of tell the way Betty is drawn. So when Joe Edwards drew the Little Jinx page that's at the back here, I think his Little Jinx artwork is better than like his Archie stuff, because he's trying to draw like a Dan DeCarlo house style. The next, this story in here is definitely Dan DeCarlo artwork. You can just kind of tell from the way everything looks so clean and so perfect. At least the funny thing is when you look this issue up in the Grand Comics database, though, there's no credits for any of these. They don't know. There's just question marks, except for the final story here, which they say was penciled by Dan DeCarlo according to a later reprint. And you can kind of tell some of the background characters. This was 1968, so occasionally you'll have sort of a reflection of the hippie stuff that was going on back then. Let's see if I can find one. There was one character in here that was sort of an odd character to be seen in Riverdale, but not in 1968. He was like a hippie type character. Let's see if I can find him. There we are. So this is the story that Grand Comics database says Dan DeCarlo penciled. But this subscription page, it looks like a Harry Lucy artwork style. And again, it has that 60s, dig what we mean, 2 psychodelicious dishes to satisfy your appetite for the stories and features that turn on the crowd that makes the summer scene. It's like very 60s, trying to be hip. There was a kind of thing in here, though, reading it, is like Jughead says, if they made sense, they wouldn't be girls, which is sort of like, you can imagine that this was written by a man. But the funny thing is, when I was reading it, I thought the first story was actually probably the weakest. It was very kind of basic. That was, just a filler thing. This one was probably one of the better ones, like I said, because it was, drawn by Dan DeCarlo. The art looks so nice, but it's also just kind of funny. And this one was also kind of funny. So these 2 stories were actually stronger than the first story. And it has a funny ending. And then this story was all right. This is probably the 3rd best story in the issue. And then that first story, like I said, is probably the weakest story. Oh, the other funny thing is the strongest story in the issue. It's Betty and me, but um, Betty is not really a major person. This could easily have just been a Betty and Veronica story. And I noticed that a lot of the first pages of these stories will have a gap at the bottom, this white gap that's longer than the interior page, because I think all the first stories had that gap because they didn't know if they were going to be used as the lead story or not. You can see that in there too. So any of these short stories, the editor could have decided, you know what, let's move this to the front, and it would already have that gap for the fine print at the bottom. So I assume that's why they did that. Anyways, is it worth $3.99? I think so. Um, that's the price of a current comic book, so it's an enjoyable. If you wanted to enjoy a current Archie comic, well, this is going to be as good as it gets. You're going to have all the great Archie artists, and it's going to be classic Archie. And I think a lot of the stories haven't been reprinted before. Like I said, that last story had been, but I think a lot of the others haven't. So, anyways, I enjoyed it. Betty and Me, number 16. Even apart from the the viral meme factor of the cover, it still works as a comic book, as an Archie comic, just as a humor comic in general. Also for the historical interest too. So that's it. Thumbs up for me. Thanks for watching.